This week in IT, I look at the spring Wave 2 releases for Microsoft 365 Copilot, including 2 new agents and an updated AI search experience, and at whether data in Microsoft's 2025 Work Trend Index report, which says AI is reshaping the future at work, really stacks up. So stay tuned for all the latest. Hello and welcome to This Week in IT, the show where I talk about everything connected to Azure, Microsoft 365 and Windows. But before I get started, I've got a quick favour to ask you. About 26% of the people who watched last week's video weren't subscribed to the channel. Now, as we go live today, we're on about 11,686 subscribers. I'd love it if we could push that up to 11,750 this week. So if you'd like to see these weekly news roundups from Petri.com, then please subscribe to the channel and don't forget to hit the bell notification to make sure that you don't miss out on the latest uploads. Microsoft announced this week a whole load of new features that are coming to Microsoft 365 Copilot in May this year. They're calling this the Spring Wave 2 release. So let's have a look to see what's coming. Now, the first thing that they talked about was an updated AI search experience coming to the Copilot app in Microsoft 365. Now, this is interesting because as it stands today, you can search for things within the Copilot app in Microsoft 365, and it's pretty good at surfacing what it is that you're looking for, at least in my experience. And of course, you can do all that with natural language. We've talked about it on this channel many times. So exactly what is changing here? Well, they're saying that they're building this new search experience from the ground up. And I think really it's not so much about what's happening in the background with search, but more about the way that it's presented and the way that you see it has been built from the ground up. So basically what Microsoft is saying here is that you're getting more contextually aware results when you search for stuff. But what do they mean by that exactly? So I think this all comes from the semantic index, all this additional data that they're going to provide. So for instance, if you decide you're going to search for a particular document on a certain subject, it will not only bring up a list of all the documents that it think might be relevant, but also add information like who created the document, who last edited the document, and when. Where the document is located, a view of the first couple of sentences. You can opt to see more details if you want. The other thing that they're bringing to this search experience is the fact that this is now connected to all sorts of other applications that can connect into the Microsoft Graph. So it's not just surfacing information that's in your own Microsoft 365 tenant, but other applications like Confluence, Jira, ServiceNow. So I don't know whether this requires a particular kind of compatibility or whether it's anything that can be connected to the Microsoft Graph, but it's expanding the search beyond your own tenant. You'll also have some options to set some filters on the results. So for instance, the modification date, the type of document, or the person who created the document. So to further filter down what it is that you're looking for. This looks like a pretty good upgrade to me. The search was already definitely heading in the right direction. The results are always pretty good. But I think any way that can help you to get more context on the results and to filter them down further, and of course to see further afield, so beyond your own tenant, has to be a good thing, and I look forward to seeing this in action. Microsoft also mentions an agent store. There are 2 agents that are going to be available, as I understood, to everybody by default who has a Copilot license, of course, are the research agent and the analyst agent. So let's start with the analyst agent. So Microsoft is describing this as essentially a data analyst available to you, and you could present it with information from various different documents. So it could be a spreadsheet with figures, it could be Word documents with information. It will basically have a look at all of that data, pull it all together for you, and provide you with some insights into whatever you ask it. So imagine you've got, I don't know, a new product and you want to discover which audience segment you should target the new product to, and you've got all the information there, but you need to sit down and analyze it to get the answer that you're looking for. This data analyst agent will be able to do all of that for you. And much like the research agent, which I'll talk about in a minute, it basically gives you the logic that it's going to use in order to find the results. So it'll create a list of steps. These are the things that I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to analyze in order to get the result. Here's the result. So it provides you with, well, this is the segment, audience segment that you should be targeting this product at. And it will give you some visuals as well. So you'll be able to present that at a high level, maybe to management, to justify why you've made a particular decision. So the idea to see the thought process that it's going through is, well, you can check that it really makes sense, so you can have more confidence in the answer that it's going to give you. The research agent is also an agent that's designed to give much deeper research into a particular subject, again using the context of information in your tenant or particular documents that you give it. So for instance, maybe if you needed to create a marketing strategy document, you could ask the research agent to create that document based on all of the information that you have in your tenant. It might even ask you some clarifying questions to make sure it really understands the task and the details of that task. And then very similar to the analysis agent, it will give you a list of points, basically a set of logic points that it's going to go through in order to create this document and then present you with the final result. Again, you've got this kind of logic, so you can really check, well, is it doing the right thing? And you can have confidence in the end result. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about confidence in the next section of the video when we talk about the work trend index that came out from Microsoft this week. For me, they're the two most interesting things that Microsoft announced in this new set of releases that's coming in May. But let's just go over a couple of the other things that are coming. So memory personalization. So Copilot will be able to remember the conversations that it's had with you and learn the kind of things that you ask it, the kind of things that it thinks you want to know, and hopefully provide you with better answers. So, okay, we'll see how that works out. There's a new image generator coming that Microsoft says is going to help organizations with designing content for various different things. I think that's based on Chat or OpenAI's latest image generator model. Copilot notebooks are coming back. Now, they were a thing a year ago, I think, and then they suddenly disappeared, and now they're coming back. And Microsoft says that essentially anything that you put in a notebook can be used as context for Copilot to give you insight on a particular project. So again, this is really just a way of helping contextualize what Copilot is giving you an answer for, so that you can hopefully get more accurate, meaningful answers from Copilot. There's also a skill discovery agent, which is hopefully going to help you put together teams in your organization to perform particular tasks. So that might be a great thing for large organizations. And there are various new controls and reports coming to help organizations get the best return on investment from all of this. So these updates are designed to help improve organizations' return on investment, essentially, in Copilot, to make the whole system more secure and to help organizations get insights into what's going on, both from an IT perspective and from the end user perspective, the people who are actually going to be using this. Now, interestingly as well, this week, Microsoft released its annual work trend index, and essentially the headline was that AI is reshaping the future of work. And of course, they have some data which they've used to show that AI is being used more and more within organizations. But reshaping the future of work, well, that's a very bold claim at this stage. Now, it might be the case that AI is reshaping the future of work. I'm not sure it's the case that Copilot necessarily is reshaping the future of work. I know that people are using things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, and all sorts of other things as part of their jobs, regardless of whether these technologies have been officially sanctioned or not. And of course, that's a whole other topic that could be a problem. But whether Copilot is really having the impact on organizations or not right now, I doubt, to be honest, because I just don't think enough organizations are paying for Copilot licenses. My biggest problem that I have with Copilot and ChatGPT is confidence in the answers that it gives me, but probably more of a problem with Copilot than I have with ChatGPT. So, for instance, if I ask it to look at a particular column in a table and I want to query that column in the table, I did this in Loop just before I started this video. I asked it to look at all the things that I'm talking about and come up with some ideas for titles. The problem is that it didn't just look at the column on the particular page that I was looking at, but it looked in the column that because I use the same table for each episode, on all the different pages from the last few episodes, and came up with a whole load of video titles essentially, but for previous episodes. Well, that's not what I was asking it to do, yeah? And that's a relatively simple task, and I think, well, if I can't trust it to look in that column on this page to give me a result, then how can I trust something like the analyst agent to go out there and determine what market segment I should be aiming a particular product at? And that's the biggest problem I have with all of this at the moment, is trust. Is it just seems to go off and kind of make up things or look in places where I didn't ask it. It's very hard to restrict it, and that's important, that it's got the exact context and not context that's not relevant to the question that I'm asking. So for me, that's a big problem with all of this, and I think Microsoft is doing as much as they can now to really change that level of trust that people have in order to improve adoption. Now, of course, this isn't just a Copilot problem, it's an AI problem that exists at the moment. It's kind of hallucination, if you like, in many cases. But without that trust, without that confidence, I'm not going to go off and ask it to make a critical business decision. I might as well just go and do that stuff myself if I'm going to have to really check it in so much detail, especially for something that's very complex. So Microsoft says that we're going to be essentially managing these agents in the future, and I think that's probably the case. But this is it reshaping the future of work? Potentially, but very, very slowly. I don't think that these agents are trustworthy enough at this stage to really be able to just go off and do stuff that's complex and that's critical, that isn't just something extremely simple. So that would be my biggest worry. But we're in early days yet with all of this technology. We have this conversation in another couple of years, it might be a different story completely. So I would give, if I had to do a performance review on Copilot, I would give it, a kind of a 2.5 out of 5 maybe. It needs to go away and improve its game before it can really be trusted with these complex tasks. So I think, we're getting there. I think, this message that Microsoft is giving with the report is really just trying to awaken people to the potential of this technology. Of course, they want you to buy a Copilot license for Microsoft 365. It's expensive. And I think organizations want to see a little bit more evidence that they're really going to be able to get there and a good return on investment if they spend this money. So what I would suggest at this stage is to trial Copilot with a set of people that could really benefit from this technology, because you still, need to know how to use it, understand what it can do, what its limitations are, to really make a good use of it at this stage. It's probably not for all employees. If you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, because it helps to get the video seen by more people on YouTube and to grow the channel. I'm going to leave another video on the screen now about an NTLM authentication exploit that hackers are using to target Active Directory and Windows right now, so do check that out. But that's it from me for this week, and I'll see you next time.